There's been a lot of talk recently about how the market has shifted, and I think the data is obvious. We can't do anything but admit that the market is not what it was, especially earlier in the year. And when I started putting out videos on YouTube about the real estate market, I wanted to come across kind of as like a voice of reason, where I'm not overly positive, not overly negative, but trying to at least make sense of things in the middle. And there are so many people that are screaming to the rooftops that we've entered a buyer's market. It's a great headline I'm seeing everywhere right now. But what I want to go through with you in this video is, are we actually there? And if not, what will it take to actually put us into a true buyer's market? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tom Storey. I'm the team leader here at the Storey Team in the city of Toronto. And if you like this type of real estate content, if you could like this video, give that a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. If you get to the end of this video and you like what you see and you want to connect with me or somebody on my team about the Toronto market, you can go into the first link in the description and book a buyer call, a seller call, or just a call to chat about the market. Also, I just noticed as I was filming this, I have a nice little scratch right here. That was from my child, in case you're wondering. Okay, so what does it actually take to put us into a buyer's market? If you have been watching this channel, you've heard me say the words months of inventory. And months of inventory is our way in the real estate world to make sense of what is happening with the market. It is essentially just a fancy way of saying what the absorption rate is. So how many new listings come to the market, how many active listings are there at the end of that month, and how many of those properties actually became sold. And months of inventory is actually very simple math. So if we break it down here, at the end of every single month, we can go for the entire market, just one specific pocket, just one property type, how many active listings were still available at the end of that month, and at that same time frame, how many properties actually sold. And once you do that calculation, it will give you a number, okay? So basically, let's say the number is under 3. So it's anywhere from 0 to 3. When we have that type of inventory, that's considered a seller's market. If there is 1 month of inventory, it means almost everything is selling out. All the new listings are selling. Everything is taking 1 month to absorb off the market. If there are 2 months of inventory, it means that 50% of new listings sell in the first 30 days. If there are 3 months of inventory, it means 33% of new listings sell in the first 30 days on the market. Now, anything under the number 3 is fundamentally a seller's market. Typically in those type of markets, we see property prices head upwards. All this is at the end of the day is supply and demand. Now, a balanced out market, and that's typically where we don't see prices go up or down, they kind of just hover a little bit in either direction, is anywhere from 4 months of inventory to 6 months of inventory. So if we break that down, that means either 1 out of every 4 properties sells every month, 25%, or we can keep going all the way to 20% and even lower. And when we get to those type of markets, things sit a lot longer as buyers have way more choice to look at, and it's a nice balanced out market. And to put things in perspective, a lot of this year in 2022, the entire city of Toronto has been under 1 month of inventory. It's been absolutely, sellers have been absolutely spoiled. So what I'm trying to get across here, and I'm going to show you all the numbers, is that the data from where we were to where we are now has absolutely changed. And in some markets, inventory has already doubled, but we are not yet, and I say yet because I don't know where the numbers are going to be in the future. We are not yet in a buyer's market. And a buyer's market is anything over 6 months of inventory. So to put that in perspective, like 3 years ago, I remember talking to realtor friends of mine in Edmonton, and their condo market had over 12 months of inventory. So for everything to sell, it would take basically a year. So that's kind of like the extreme end of a buyer's market, but it's basically anything over 6. The last time I saw inventory numbers approach 6 was in 2017 in Durham region. We saw listings really spike up when things changed. And also the bottom out of the condo market, we had about 5.5 months of inventory in 2020. Okay, so let's look over these numbers together and try to make sense of this. And just to give you one more kind of analogy, the way I look at the market and months of inventory is if you were driving up to a cottage property, you know how you see the fire kind of signs on the side of the road and says like green, you can have a fire, yellow, yeah, be careful, and red, do not have a fire. Seller's market is red, balanced market is yellow, and green as buyers. That's kind of another way to look at this. So if we look at the entire market, the entire GTA, and to preface this, these are numbers from April. So May's numbers are not out yet. And I would say that any number I'm going to talk about today, I would add almost a good half point if not full point to it, because inventory is building right now. And it's not just because inventory is building, like there's that many new listings, but there's a lot of rollover listings because not every property is selling anymore. All right, so first let's look at the Toronto market. And all of this, the source for all of this is the Toronto Real Estate Board from Market Watch, which comes out every single month. I just make my own little graphs out of it. Now, all home types. So if we look at Toronto West, right, this is the city of Toronto West, basically. There's still only 1.3 months of inventory. I would say by the end of this month, we might be creeping towards 2. That is still fundamentally a good seller's market. And that's why you're still seeing properties, specifically semi-detached properties in those neighborhoods, getting 3, 4, 5, 6 offers. It's still happening. If you look at Central, we're creeping towards 2 months of inventory. We have 1.8. And then the east side of the city is still very, very low. Like, it's really interesting. The east side of the city, for whatever reason, always has the most limited amount of inventory, and it's the hottest pocket over the last like 5 years. And I track the numbers all the time. It's really interesting to see how that happens. If we move down and we look at the outer markets, because this is where we're seeing a lot of the big changes right now in terms of sale prices being down significantly from February, and also just number of transactions happening. So Halton region, we're at 1.5 months of inventory at the end of April. Peel, we were at 1.6. York, we're at 2.1. Durham, 1.2. Actually, kind of surprisingly with Durham. And Simcoe County, we are at 2.2. If you notice, none of these are yet over 3. So technically, at the end of April, we were not even in a balanced market in terms of like how the math actually works. Now, I do think we're getting there. Let's be clear. I do think it's going to happen over the summer. It's already creeping up, and it can happen very quick. And market shifts, you don't really notice they happen until you look back 2 months later and go like, oh, look, that many new listings came out, only that many sold. So these are the markets that I still think will see the biggest price corrections, because the last 2 years, they also saw the significant amount of growth compared to everybody else basically in the city of Toronto. Now, let's move down one more. This is now the city of Toronto, okay? So detached homes in the GTA, which is everything, is 1.7 months of inventory. In the city of Toronto, it was 1.5. Semi-detached, 1.2. Toronto, 1. Townhouses, 1.6. Toronto, 1. Condos, this is where it gets interesting to me. For GTA condos, we're still sitting at 1.2 months of inventory. For the city of Toronto, we're sitting at 1, which is very low. But the two clusters of condos, and I've covered them before in videos, CO1 and CO8, both in the downtown core, are where the most amount of condo sales happen. So it's the best indication of how the market is moving, because there's the most amount of them, being sold and just, physically there in those areas. So CO1, we had 1.7 months of inventory. A month ago, it was like 0.8. So it's doubled. And I would expect that gets to like 2.5 by May. CO8, which is St. Lawrence Market, Cabbagetown, Distillery District, King Street East, all those areas, Queen Street East and everything like that, it was already at 2.4 months of inventory. And that means that 1 out of every 2.5 properties listed is actually selling. So a lot less listings were selling, and that will continue to build up over time. I have no doubt that inventory will build here, especially with the summer coming, nice weather, people doing things. Real estate's not the number one thing on people's minds. And that's why the adjustment phase is happening right now. And we saw this play out in 2017. It happened in 2008. It's happened many, many times where there's this 3 to 5 month period where sellers still want prices from February. Buyers are definitely not willing to pay it, because why would they anymore? And there's this zone of like people not exactly knowing what their property is worth, because for the most part, and like I don't actually think from today, and obviously I could be wrong, I don't think we're going to see price growth for any asset classes. With interest rates going up, I just don't see how that could happen. So they're either going to stabilize or they're going to drop for certain asset classes. And I still think outside Toronto, we're going to see the biggest drops. But when we look year over year, from where prices were in January till the end of this year, I still think certain asset classes are going to be up a good chunk. It's just most of that growth is going to happen in the first 3 months of the year. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found this valuable. I really wanted to break this down and just show you like it's not that bad yet. And I'm not trying to say that as a real estate agent to say buy and sell property and prices always go up, because we all know that's a bunch of crap. But like, it's not quite there yet. Could it get there? Absolutely. Will it get there? Yeah, I actually think we're going to definitely get to a balanced market. Are we going to get to a buyer's market? That I'm not so sure of yet. Thank you so much for watching. Please comment below if you have any questions. My name is Tom Storey, and remember, home is where your story begins.